The Holy Gospel according to Luke, the 12th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Friend, who set me to be a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And this man thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." And then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for your many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool! This very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I enjoy watching TV. When I find myself with a few minutes to spare and can just sit on the couch and relax for a little bit, my TV just sits right in front of me and says, "Watch me." Okay, I try to watch the news every now and then just to keep up to speed, but mostly I spend my downtime on the couch just watching shows about old cars, or what I like to call mindless TV. But the more I think about the shows that I'm watching, I begin to wonder how mindless it actually is. I'm someone who gravitates towards channels like Discovery or History or Velocity. And this week I started thinking about all the shows that I tend to watch on these channels. All these reality type shows where these crews follow people as they follow their dreams. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of them. And there's a few that stand out to me at this moment. There's the show about the fishermen who brave the killer seas to make their salary in just a couple of weeks. We watch groups of men and women brave the Alaskan wilderness or coastal sea waters to discover that next big gold rush. And now that some of their dreams must have run out because they're heading to different continents to take the gold from other people's countries. There are shows where people go to any length to outbid one another on storage units or homes or cars or junk that's in barns and garages and attics and backyards and almost anything else you can think of. I'm sure there's a show about it. We watch as junkyard cars get turned into showroom beauties in a matter of days or weeks or in that hour time slot. And all these shows create in me the sense of energy and excitement and this desire to gather as much stuff as I can and not get rid of it in case someone comes by and finds that next great thing in my attic. And I want to compete with other people to get as much as I can. Maybe that storage unit's for sale. And, oh, look at that car. Maybe it's for sale. And I begin to think, again, that maybe these shows aren't so mindless after all. Maybe my mind is right there in those shows. Well, this isn't even to mention the commercials that come on in between the shows, where the message is quite simply that we don't have enough stuff or the right stuff, but thank goodness these people have come with the products to help us with that problem. So then, when you have made it to the point where you cross that fine line from having enough stuff to too much stuff, you go on the show Hoarders, or you end up having, in the middle of the wilderness, having all your stuff taken from you, and they watch you as you try to survive in the middle of the woods for a month. How will they ever survive without all those material belongings? Tune in next week to find out. No, 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 Jesus says. Or more accurately, you fool. Maybe it's just some of the channels and shows that I watch, but I would imagine other shows and channels make their living off of this idea of idolizing greed. Yes, greed. Greed is what Jesus is warning us about in this story. He's not warning about having possessions or money. Those are okay when they're used apart from greed in order to make a living for oneself and your family. But when greed drives our desires for money and possessions, we get called fools. This seems so confusing to us because everything else around us is telling us the complete opposite. We live in a consumerist society, in case you weren't aware. People spend money so that other people can make a living, and then taxes can be taken off of that money so services and infrastructures can exist and more jobs can be created to sustain those things, and the cycle continues and everyone is happy. Happy, 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 right? Well, you're happy as long as you can find one of those jobs that fit into that cycle somehow. Or you're happy if you come up with that great idea that can corner the market in one way or another. Or you're happy when you've worked through your life and saved up a pension you can live on, as long as Wall Street doesn't go broke or the city you worked for doesn't go bankrupt. But all these things that make us happy seem to depend on this world around us, this consumerist society, which is, if I can call it, greedy. It's a cutthroat, come out on top, who has the bigger toys world where you have to have money to make money. You fools. Us fools. Hurts a little bit. But that's the message we've been given. That's the message we see on TV, on billboards, in everything we read, from our email to the newspaper that's just covered with ads. We hear it from complete strangers, and we hear it from bosses and coworkers, friends and family. Work and take so you can just relax, eat, drink, be merry, like the guy in Jesus' parable. Now, there's a part of me that feels like I'm preaching to the choir here. As I'm getting to know you all, I see that you are generous people. I've seen what you do with your money. I've seen you support the kids for the Heifer Project. I've seen you give to Oaks and Mosaic and donate food and clothing and undies. Didn't think I could fit that in again, could you? I've seen you create a place to gather and fellowship and serve. And I've seen what you do when you come together to try to keep a roof over the place where we come together to worship. But this message of greed still plays all around us every moment of the day, even if we can be those generous people. And then I wonder if this message is something that keeps people away from the church. People who are so busy with the pressures of the world that church just becomes one more thing keeping them from building that livelihood. Plus, every time you show up here, we keep asking for that hard-earned money. I mean, it just might add to another layer of guilt. But instead, why can't this be a place that becomes freeing? Because it is. This kingdom frees us from all those worldly pressures. This is a place where it doesn't matter who you are out in that world. In here, everyone is an equal child of God. It doesn't matter how much money you do or don't have out there, everyone is loved the exact same in here. We are free people. Free from sin, free from the devil, free from consumer advertising, free from judgment and fear. We are free people. And like I've heard it said on those commercials, who doesn't like free stuff? Sometimes it takes extreme situations to realize the importance of things. And hopefully sometimes we learn from those extreme situations or others who are in those. And so this week, while I was online, I saw a posting of the top 5 regrets of the dying. It was compiled by the Guardian News Report. And I thought what they posted just was really apt for what we heard this morning. And so these are the top 5 regrets from the dying. Number 5 is, I wish I had let myself be happier. Number 4, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And the top regret of the dying was, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. Wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Now, I know they didn't include the regrets number 6 through 10, but I would wager that none of them included anything about saving for retirement or wishing your net worth was higher. Again, not that those things are bad in themselves, but too much worrying about them, like the guy Jesus is telling us about, simply becomes greedy. We should probably remember the words from Paul today as well, where he gives us one of his famous lists again. He says, "Put to death, therefore, whatever in you is earthly, fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry." Anything we make bigger than it is or needs to be makes those things an idol and is called idolatry. Anything we make bigger than God, who is all-powerful, omnipresent, becomes idolatry. Put those things to death, says Paul. They are the vanity of vanities, according to the writer of Ecclesiastes. Are we living lives that are true to ourselves and not the lives others expect of us, like the number 1 regret? Are we living lives that are true to what God asks of us and worthy of God's kingdom? Are we making idols of things, money and possessions specifically, that should never be made into idols? Are we wearing money in our hats? This false idolatry gives us a false security. We think we're secure when we gather up our savings, our retirement, our possessions, or whatever else we gather. But we've seen it all. We've all seen it, that those things can disappear quicker than we can imagine. Houses might burn down or be swept away by a tornado. Stocks plummet and retirement systems can go bankrupt. If any of those things happen, and we've depended on those things and made them our idols, we are just sunk. Our whole world's been turned upside down. But if we follow Jesus' command, and if our security rests in God and on God's kingdom, we never have to worry about being sunk. I think I've heard it said before that you can't take it with you. You've never seen a hearse with a luggage rack, have you? So those TV shows are still going to exist. You're going to have ads and signs that confront you every day. I just simply pray that we can find freedom from all of these things in this place and in God's kingdom. Freedom to live a life that is true to ourselves and to God. Freedom to live without the fear of death. Freedom to live with God as the only thing we could possibly ever have to have. Amen.